He's a little bit of a rascal. More shock and dauntingness. It's not somewhere I enjoy being. In the position I'm in, that's what's required of me to do. I'm reasonably headstrong about what I believe in and what I go for, and I've got fantastic people around me who give me great support.
A peaceful Sunday horse show. A 9-year-old princess holding a juice box. One cruel comment that shattered royal protocol forever. When Princess Charlotte faced unexpected bullying from someone she trusted, Prince William's response sent shockwaves through the monarchy and changed the royal family dynamics permanently. What started as an innocent family outing became the catalyst for the most dramatic power shift the House of Windsor has seen in decades. Stay with us to discover how one father's protective instincts ignited a royal war that's still reshaping the crown today. The perfect family day turns dark. The morning sun cast long shadows across the countryside horse show as Prince William and Kate Middleton arrived with their children for what should have been a relaxing family weekend. No photographers chasing them, no formal royal duties to fulfill. Just a normal family enjoying the simple pleasure of watching young riders compete with their ponies. Princess Charlotte bounced with excitement as she walked between the horse rings, her riding boots crunching on the gravel paths. She carried a juice box and wore the kind of genuine smile that reminded everyone why she'd become such a beloved royal figure. Her natural confidence and grace, inherited from both her parents, made her stand out even in casual clothes. The atmosphere felt wonderfully ordinary. Children ran around with sticky fingers from cotton candy. Parents chatted over thermos cups of tea, and the sound of hooves on packed earth filled the air. Kate laughed as Charlotte pointed enthusiastically at different ponies, clearly imagining herself jumping those colorful fences. William seemed genuinely relaxed, away from the weight of royal responsibility. Also attending the show was Lola Parker Bowles, Queen Camilla's granddaughter. Nearly the same age as Charlotte, Lola had grown up in the shadow of the royal family without ever truly belonging to its inner circle. She appeared at family gatherings and stood politely in group photographs, but everyone understood that her connection to the crown came only through her grandmother's marriage to King Charles.
For at the wedding of Camilla and Charles, she appeared in no less than a white gown.
The relationship between Charlotte and Lola had always been polite but distant. They smiled at each other during Christmas services and exchanged pleasantries at royal events, but they had never developed a genuine friendship. Charlotte represented the future of the monarchy, while Lola remained perpetually on the outside, looking in. What began as two girls sharing a simple moment would soon expose the deep fault lines running through the modern royal family. The incident started with something as innocent as childhood thirst. Charlotte had been sipping her juice while watching a particularly exciting jumping round when she noticed Lola looking at her drink with interest. True to her upbringing, Charlotte immediately offered to share, handing over the juice box with a gentle reminder that she would need some left since they planned to stay at the show for several more hours. Charlotte turned her attention back to the competition, clapping enthusiastically as riders cleared difficult jumps. She was completely absorbed in the action, cheering for her favorites and discussing the horses with her mother. The joy on her face was pure and unguarded, the kind of happiness that only comes from simple childhood pleasures. But when Charlotte turned back to retrieve her juice box, she discovered it was completely empty. Her face showed genuine confusion as she looked at the drained container, then at Lola, trying to understand what had happened. She asked quietly why the entire drink had been finished when she had specifically asked for some to be saved. What came next was not the apology or explanation Charlotte expected. Instead, Lola looked directly at her and delivered words that cut deeper than any physical blow. She told Charlotte that she acted like she was already the queen, just like her mother did. The comment was delivered with calm cruelty, designed to hurt. But Lola was not finished. She continued by saying that Kate was not even the real queen, that her own grandmother Camilla held that title, and that Kate was just pretending to be important. The words hung in the air like poison, each syllable calculated to wound a 9-year-old girl who had done nothing wrong. The final blow came when Lola told Charlotte that she was not special, that one day she would just be married off to someone, and that would be the end of her importance. The cruelty was breathtaking in its precision, targeting everything that made Charlotte who she was, and reducing her future to nothing more than a political arrangement. Charlotte stood frozen, the empty juice box still in her small hands. The attack had been so unexpected, so vicious, that she could not immediately process what had happened. Her eyes filled with tears as the full impact of the words hit her, and she realized that someone she had tried to be kind to had used that kindness as a weapon against her. The reaction from Charlotte's parents would set in motion events that would reshape the royal family forever. A mother's silent fury. Kate Middleton had spent years perfecting the art of royal composure.
This is the story of how an ordinary young woman from an ordinary family became destined to be the future Queen of England.
But nothing could have prepared her for watching her daughter crumble under such calculated cruelty. When Charlotte ran to her mother's side, tears streaming down her face, Kate immediately knelt down and wrapped her arms around her child without asking a single question. The Duchess of Cambridge understood instinctively that drawing attention to the incident would only make things worse for Charlotte. Instead of confronting Lola or demanding explanations, Kate focused entirely on comforting her daughter while maintaining the perfect public smile that had become her trademark. But those who knew Kate well could see the fury burning behind her calm exterior. Her body language became rigid and protective, creating an invisible shield around Charlotte. She guided her daughter away from the crowd, speaking in soft, reassuring tones, while her eyes remained alert for any sign of further trouble. Kate had endured years of criticism herself, from people questioning her background to tabloids dissecting every aspect of her appearance and behavior. She had learned to absorb those attacks with grace and dignity, but watching her 9-year-old daughter face such cruelty awakened something fierce and unforgiving in her maternal instincts. The Duchess made no scene, issued no statements, and gave no interviews about what had happened. Her response was far more powerful than words could ever be. She simply became an unmovable force of protection around her children, making it clear without speaking that she would tolerate no further attacks on her family. Prince William had been engaged in conversation with other parents when he noticed the shift in atmosphere around his wife and daughter. One look at Charlotte's tear-stained face and Kate's protective posture told him everything he needed to know. His expression immediately changed from relaxed enjoyment to sharp focus. William approached the situation with the same quiet intensity that had made him an effective military officer. He did not raise his voice or create drama, but everyone nearby could feel the change in his demeanor. When he learned what had happened, his jaw tightened and his hands clenched briefly before he regained control. The future king made no immediate statements or confrontations. Instead, he quietly gathered his family and began moving them toward their car. But those who watched him closely could see that something fundamental had shifted. The man, who had spent his entire life being trained for diplomacy and restraint, had just watched his daughter being attacked, and his response would be swift and decisive. 1 week after the horse show incident, when everyone assumed the matter had been quietly forgotten, Prince William did something that left royal watchers around the world speechless. He posted a message on his official social media account that was both simple and devastating in its implications. The tweet contained no royal seals, no formal language, and no diplomatic hedging. It simply stated that his family would always come first, and that anyone who thought they could harm his daughter and remain close to them was badly mistaken. The message was direct, personal, and completely unprecedented for a future king. Royal social media posts are typically written by communications teams, reviewed by multiple advisors, and crafted to offend no one while saying nothing meaningful. William's tweet broke every rule of royal communication by speaking directly from his heart as a father, rather than through the filtered voice of institutional protocol. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Royal commentators rushed to analyze every word, trying to understand who the message was directed at and what consequences might follow. Social media erupted with support for William's protective instincts, while others questioned whether future monarchs should engage in public family disputes. But the tweet was just the opening move in a much larger strategy. Behind palace walls, William was quietly implementing changes that would restructure the entire dynamic of royal family relationships. He was not just protecting his daughter from future attacks, he was redefining who belonged in his vision of the monarchy's future. staff members at various royal residences began noticing subtle but significant changes in how events were organized and guest lists were managed. Names that had previously appeared automatically on invitation lists suddenly went missing. Access that had been taken for granted was quietly revoked. The changes were implemented with such diplomatic skill that many people did not immediately realize they had been excluded. The real shock came when people discovered exactly how far William was willing to go to protect his family. The title that disappeared. 3 weeks after William's tweet, royal insiders discovered that Lola Parker Bowles had been quietly stripped of her honorary position as junior ambassador to the Royal Children's Equestrian Foundation. The title had been largely ceremonial, but its removal sent an unmistakable message about consequences and boundaries. To most of the public, the loss of a junior honorary position might have seemed like a minor administrative change, but within royal circles, everyone understood the devastating significance of the action. Honorary positions for royal grandchildren serve as symbols of belonging and markers of who sits inside the family's inner circle. By removing Lola's title, William was making a statement that went far beyond punishment for a childhood incident. He was establishing that proximity to the royal family brought responsibilities as well as privileges, and that those who abused their position would face consequences regardless of their family connections. The decision represented a fundamental shift in how the royal family operated. Previous generations had often overlooked bad behavior from extended family members in the name of maintaining unity and avoiding public scandals. William was signaling that his generation would operate by different rules. Palace communications staff worked carefully to present the change as a routine administrative adjustment rather than a punishment. Official statements mentioned restructuring and streamlining of honorary positions without specifically naming individuals or explaining the reasoning behind the changes, but experienced royal watchers immediately recognized the significance of the action. William was not just protecting his daughter, he was reshaping the entire culture of royal family relationships. The message was clear: behavior has consequences, and no one is too well connected to be held accountable. Queen Camilla's reaction to her granddaughter's treatment revealed the deep insecurities that still haunted her despite decades of marriage to the king. When she learned about Lola's lost title and exclusion from family events, her carefully maintained composure finally cracked. Behind closed doors at Clarence's house, witnesses reported that Camilla paced angrily through her private rooms, alternately furious at William's actions and devastated by what she saw as a personal rejection. She had fought for decades to establish her legitimacy within the royal family, and watching her granddaughter be excluded felt like a rejection of everything she had worked to achieve. Camilla immediately sought a private meeting with King Charles, hoping that her husband would intervene on her family's behalf. She argued that Lola was just a child who had made a mistake, and that William's response was disproportionate and cruel. The punishment, she insisted, was really aimed at her, rather than at a young girl who had simply spoken thoughtlessly. But King Charles found himself in an impossible position. As a father, he understood William's protective instincts and could not argue against a man defending his child. As a husband, he sympathized with Camilla's pain at seeing her granddaughter excluded from family activities. As a king, he knew that family disputes could damage the monarchy's reputation if they became public. Charles chose to remain neutral, telling Camilla that the matter had been handled and would not be revisited. His refusal to intervene represented a devastating blow to Camilla's influence within the family hierarchy. For the first time since her marriage to Charles, she discovered that her position as queen consort did not guarantee her family's protection from consequences. Frustrated by her husband's neutrality, Camilla began reaching out to other family members and longtime royal staff, trying to build support for her position. She found sympathy for her situation but little willingness to challenge William's decisions. Most people understood that the future king's authority was not something to be questioned lightly. The queen consort also began working with friendly media contacts to present her side of the story. Carefully placed articles began appearing in sympathetic publications, portraying Lola as an innocent child caught in adult power struggles and suggesting that William had overreacted to a minor incident. But Camilla's media strategy would backfire spectacularly when the full details of what Lola had said to Charlotte became public. The palace staff choose sides. As tension between William and Camilla intensified, staff members throughout the royal household found themselves forced to choose loyalties in ways they had never experienced before. The division was not just about a single incident, but about fundamental questions of who would shape the monarchy's future direction. Senior staff who had served the royal family for decades watched with growing concern as the unity they had worked to maintain began fracturing along generational lines. Those who remembered the chaos of the Charles and Diana years worried that history was repeating itself, while younger staff members saw William's actions as necessary modernization. Palace communications teams faced particular challenges as they tried to manage the story without taking visible sides in the family dispute. Press secretaries found themselves crafting statements that supported both William's authority as future king and Charles's position as current monarch, while avoiding any appearance of criticism toward Camilla. Behind the scenes, however, the practical impact of the dispute became increasingly visible. Event planners discovered that guest lists required much more careful attention as they navigated the new reality of which family members could be invited to which functions. Security arrangements had to be adjusted to account for the changed dynamics between different branches of the family. Staff members at Kensington Palace, where William and Kate had their primary residence, noticed a marked increase in their employer's involvement in day-to-day decisions that had previously been delegated. The prince and princess were taking personal control of more aspects of their children's schedules and activities, clearly determined to prevent any repeat of the horse show incident. The division extended beyond immediate family to include the broader network of royal cousins, friends, and hangers-on who traditionally moved freely between different royal households. People who had enjoyed access to multiple family branches suddenly found themselves having to choose which relationships to maintain and which to sacrifice. 6 months after the horse show incident, Prince William made a decision that would permanently alter the royal family's internal dynamics. In a private meeting with his closest advisors, he announced that when he became king, Queen Camilla would have no official role in his court and no influence over his children's upbringing.
But at the moment, I'm very much concentrating on my family, serving the community with the air ambulance, which is...
The decision was not announced publicly or communicated directly to Camilla, but its effects became apparent through a series of subtle changes in protocol and procedure. Invitations that had previously included Camilla as a matter of course began arriving with more selective guest lists. Events at which she would normally play a prominent role were restructured to minimize her involvement. William's vision for his future reign explicitly excluded the woman who had been his stepmother for over a decade. He made it clear to his staff that while he would always show appropriate respect for his father's wife, he would not allow her to play the role of grandmother to his children or senior royal to his wife. The exclusion was implemented with surgical precision, designed to avoid public confrontation while making the new boundaries absolutely clear.
So, as much as it's for the world to see, the personal aspect of it was very important to us.
Camilla would retain her title and position as long as Charles remained king, but she would have no pathway to continued influence once William inherited the throne. This decision represented more than just punishment for her granddaughter's behavior. It reflected William's determination to shape a monarchy that honored his mother's memory while protecting his own family from the kind of internal conflicts that had damaged previous generations. The prince made his reasoning clear to those closest to him. He explained that the monarchy's survival depended on public trust and respect, both of which required the royal family to demonstrate genuine unity and shared values. Anyone who undermined those values, regardless of their title or family connections, could not be part of his vision for the crown's future. William's final decision would force every member of the royal family to confront the new reality of monarchical succession, the new royal order. The transformation that began with a juice box at a horse show ultimately reshaped the entire structure of the modern British monarchy. William's protective response to his daughter's treatment established new principles that would govern royal family relationships for generations to come. The changes represented a fundamental shift from the traditional approach of maintaining family unity at all costs to a new model that prioritized accountability and consequences. Bad behavior would no longer be overlooked in the name of avoiding scandal, and proximity to the throne would no longer provide immunity from the results of poor choices. Staff throughout the royal household adapted to the new reality by developing more sophisticated systems for managing family dynamics and preventing conflicts before they could escalate. Guest lists became more carefully curated, events were structured to minimize potential friction, and children's activities were monitored with unprecedented attention to detail. The broader royal family also adjusted their behavior as they recognized the new standards that William was implementing. Conversations became more careful, actions were considered more thoughtfully, and the casual assumption that family relationships would override all other considerations disappeared permanently. Public reaction to the changes was overwhelmingly positive, with most people supporting William's determination to protect his daughter and establish clear boundaries for royal behavior. The incident helped solidify his reputation as a father who put his children's welfare above political convenience, and a future king who would demand high standards from everyone around him. The transformation also reflected broader changes in British society, where accountability and protection of children had become increasingly important values.
She's been a little joy of heaven, but at the same time, it is a more responsibility.
William's actions aligned perfectly with public expectations about how modern leaders should respond to bullying and inappropriate behavior. The event demonstrated his willingness to prioritize his children's welfare over diplomatic convenience, and established precedents that would guide royal family relationships throughout his reign. The incident also provided valuable lessons about the power of quiet, determined action over dramatic confrontation. William's response was devastating in its effectiveness, precisely because it avoided public spectacle, while achieving complete success in protecting his family and establishing new boundaries. Princess Charlotte, now older and more aware of royal protocol, would grow up knowing that her father had been willing to restructure the entire monarchy rather than allow her to be treated with cruelty. That knowledge would provide her with unshakable confidence in her family's love and support throughout her life. The changes William implemented also created a healthier environment for all royal children, establishing clear expectations for behavior and consequences for those who failed to meet appropriate standards. Future generations would benefit from the boundaries he established during this crucial period. The broader monarchy emerged stronger from the crisis with clearer principles and more effective systems for preventing and addressing internal conflicts. The institution's survival and continued relevance were secured by William's willingness to confront difficult truths and make hard decisions about who belonged in its future. A simple horse show afternoon that began with childhood excitement ended by transforming the British monarchy forever. Prince William's response to his daughter's treatment demonstrated that the future of the crown would be built on accountability, protection, and clear boundaries rather than traditional assumptions about family loyalty. The incident proved that sometimes the most profound changes begin with the smallest moments, and that a father's love can reshape even the most ancient institutions. What do you think about William's decision to prioritize his daughter's protection over family diplomacy? Share your thoughts in the comments below.